Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to a special edition of Woman to Woman with Joanne. This month, we have celebrated Black history with some of our beautiful Mississippi women who participated in the Civil Rights Movement and women who are still making an impact today. Now, we want to share some of our Mississippi legends with you. In 2017, Woman to Woman with Joanne hosted our first Mississippi Legends Ball, honoring Mississippi women who fought during the Civil Rights Movement and who have impacted their communities. It is my pleasure to share these beautiful legends with you. This show is being sponsored by Troy Buckner, president of Hytara Entertainment, a California organization. On February 23, 2017, we had the privilege to honor Dolores Lynch Williams, Orbra Harrington Porter, Chief Vicki McNeil, and Frankie Adams Johnson with a special tribute to Fannie Lou Hamer. And we also honored my hero, Helen Ruth Sandifer, my mom, who went to be with the Lord in 2016. Each honoree was portrayed by an actor, which allowed them to really see the impact they made with their contributions to the Civil Rights Movement. In 1978, Vicki McNeil joined the police force, and through much opposition, she worked her way to become the Assistant Chief of Police. And in 2009, she became the first Black female police chief in Canton, Mississippi. During the Legends Ball, she was portrayed by Miss Tammy Anderson Brown. Orbra Harrington Porter was the first to integrate Hardy Junior High School. She was the only Black student her 9th grade year at Hardy Junior High, now known as Hardy Middle School. Her spirit of servitude was ingrained in her by her parents, J.B. and Stella Harrington. Their work and involvement with Medgar Evers and the NAACP during the 60s encouraged her to also be an active participant of the Civil Rights Movement. Her memorable high school days of school integration at Murrah High School were spent with a small group of minority students that included several prominent Black families, such as the Evers, McCoy, Myers, and Robinsons. She graduated from Murrah in 1970. During the ball, she was portrayed by Maya Bell. Frankie Adams Johnson, who we just recently interviewed, became a part of the Civil Rights Movement at around age 16. She moved to New York to live with her older sister because her mother feared for her life after she was hit across the back by a white police officer during a protest. In New York, she became a Black Panther and helped create programs to feed the hungry and create housing aid for the poor. Miss Frankie was portrayed by Sharance Higgins. Miss Dolores Lynch Williams joined the Civil Rights Movement at age 15. In 1961, she and 10 other teenagers were arrested at Trailways bus station for a breach of peace and taken to jail and held there for 11 days. She got involved with the movement so that one day her children would never see a white-only sign or a colored-only sign. And on September 22nd, 1961, those signs came down. Miss Dolores is also a Mississippi Freedom Rider. During the Legends Ball, she was portrayed by April Bigham. Okay, you guys, we're gonna take a short break and we'll be right back with more Woman to Woman with Joanne, honoring our Mississippi legends.
Whether buying or selling a home, service counts. Lynette Sutler with One Star Realty is your trusted realty agent with over 10 years of experience and ready to serve you, giving you the star treatment. Call Lynette Sutler today to get the service you deserve.
During a public health crisis, it can be hard for those facing domestic abuse to know what to do. Being confined in the same space as an abuser can increase threats to safety. And leaving an abusive relationship during a crisis can be even more difficult than normal. You can help. Ask them how they want to connect and be creative. Be supportive and believe them. Help them think through how to stay safe. Following these tips, you can help victims of domestic violence stay safe during COVID-19.
Okay, you guys, we are back and we are still honoring our Mississippi legends. So on March 9th, 2018, we honored Miss Ruby Wilson, Miss Jeanette Smith, and Miss Leola Dillard. We also remembered Miss Peggy Jean Connor and gave a special tribute to Mamie Till, mother of Emmett Till. Miss Ruby Wilson was instrumental in the civil rights movement in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. She was a school teacher who, when growing up, attended Piney Woods School. In her classroom is where she was most active during the movement. She would preach it to her students to get their parents to vote, encouraging them that their vote mattered and it was their right to do so. When Miss Ruby and her husband Sam decided to register to vote, they were of course given the test that had been prepared just for Blacks to fail. Theron Lind was the chancery clerk at that time and told them that they would let them know if they had passed or not. So they waited and waited and finally got a notice that they had failed. Well, the Department of Justice intervened in 1964, and the United States Attorney General, John Doerr, came to their home and asked if they, along with several other professionals, would be willing to testify against Lind, and they agreed to do so. And he assured them that they wouldn't lose their jobs because that was a real fear for most people during that time. After the judge asked a few questions and heard the answers given and listened to her answer of the law she was to interpret for her voting rights test, he said to her he couldn't have interpreted it better himself. He even asked Theron Lind if he understood what the law meant. Needless to say, they were granted their right to vote, and they have been proudly voting ever since. During the Mississippi Legends Ball, Miss Ruby Burkett Wilson was portrayed by Miss Jocelyn Howard. Miss Jeanette Smith was born and raised in Jones County in Soso, Mississippi. Her great-grandfather was Newt Knight, and they were a part of the mixed Negroes in the Free State of Jones. She was 24 years old and married to her husband, C.E. Smith, when Freedom Summer took place in 1964. Her husband was a doctor. He was actually the first Black to segregate the hospital in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. He was also the president of the Forest County chapter of the NAACP, and she was so very proud of him. Miss Jeanette fought for our voting rights and civil rights in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, because she wanted a different life for herself and other African Americans. She met many people whose names do appear in history books, the same books that omit the stories of other local activists who worked in the struggle. We didn't come down here from outside of Mississippi representing churches and other organizations. We weren't documenting any history. We were fighting because we wanted our rights. We were tired of being treated like less than a first-class citizen. It's hard to be a Black person and not fight for your rights. She said it's important to her to talk about the past injustices so that they are not repeated. If you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. During the Legends Ball, Miss Jeanette was portrayed by April Bigham. And we are sad to say that shortly after the Legends Ball, Miss Jeanette passed away. So we honor her today for her contributions to the civil rights movement. I hear the clock ticking as it sits up on the wall. Tick, tick, ticking time away from us all. As it ticks, you dream dreams. But that dream gets you nowhere unless you get up and do something about it. Miss Leola Dillard got up and did something about it. She lived her life around this very poem. Whenever she saw something wrong that needed to be fixed, she knew she had to do something about it. Miss Leola started college at Alcorn, but she finished at Jackson State University. Miss Leola got married when she was 20 years old, and she lived on the plantation with her husband. Her husband was a farmer, and she was a school teacher. She remembers when school opened, she told her husband to let the man know that her children would be attending school, but he didn't. So the man wanted to know what was wrong and why the children weren't working in the field. So Miss Leola told him, "My children are going to school." Well, he said, I was ruining his people and we had to move. So she said, "Okay, do I move now or when?" He said that they could wait till the crop was finished, but they did have to move. Miss Leola remembers going to register to vote for the very first time. She rode with a white lady there. They were still living on a plantation at the time. On the way back from registering to vote, the lady was driving really slow. So slow that a man on a horse rode up to her window and told her, "If you know what's good for you, you will take your name off that voting list." Well, she knew that was a threat, and she was afraid he would do something to her children. So she went back and took her name off that list for her children's sake. But as soon as it was law that Black people could vote, she went right back down there and registered to vote. And it was her goal to encourage everyone she knew to go and do the same. I hear the clock ticking as it sits up on the wall. Tick, tick, ticking time away from us all. As it ticks, you dream dreams, but that dream gets you nowhere unless you get up and do something about it. Our precious Mississippi legend, Miss Leola Dillard, passed away at 108 years old in 2020. And we were so privileged and we were honored to meet her, speak with her, and to share her story with you all. So y'all, we are going to take another short break and we'll be right back with more Woman to Woman with Joanne.
Whether buying or selling a home, service counts. Lynette Sutler with One Star Realty is your trusted realty agent with over 10 years of experience and ready to serve you, giving you the star treatment. Call Lynette Sutler today to get the service you deserve.
During a public health crisis, it can be hard for those facing domestic abuse to know what to do. Being confined in the same space as an abuser can increase threats to safety. And leaving an abusive relationship during a crisis can be even more difficult than normal. You can help. Ask them how they want to connect and be creative. Be supportive and believe them. Help them think through how to stay safe. Following these tips, you can help victims of domestic violence stay safe during COVID-19.
Okay, you guys, we are back and we are still honoring our Mississippi legends. On March 16, 2019, we hosted our third annual Mississippi Legends Ball honoring Judge Tommy Green, Mamie Ballard Crockett, Sandra Griffin McCall, Angela Stewart, Cynthia Goodlow Palmer, and Ethel Gavin Brooks, with a special tribute to Carolyn Easter Jenkins, better known as Terry Lynn. Miss Sandra McCall was just 13 years old the night they got the call that Megan Evers had been killed. Her mom and dad worked with the NAACP, so they would get death threats and bomb threats through phone calls at their house. At first, she really didn't understand the work that her parents were doing. But after that night, she did understand. She wanted to get more involved in the civil rights movement, so during the summers as a teenager, she would work in the NAACP office, typing the voter registration cards of the people that had registered to vote. They would go to the courthouse and encourage our people to register to vote as well, until the day that her brother was at the courthouse by himself registering voters. They got a call at the NAACP office saying that if they did not get down to their courthouse and get him off those steps within 10 minutes, they were going to kill him. So, Miss Sandra stepped away from the civil rights movement for a while. In 2011, when her brother passed, she took his place as Benny Thompson's campaign manager in the Jackson, Mississippi area, and she still holds that position today. Her and her son actually lived in Medgar Evers' house for 4 years at the request of Miss Myrlie Evers at that time. Miss Sandra McCall was portrayed by Miss Kimberly Farmer during the Legends Ball. Judge Tommy Green was the first African American federal judicial law clerk in the state of Mississippi under Judge Wingate. In 1999, she became the first woman elected to the 7th Circuit Court District in Mississippi. In 2011, she became the first African American and the first woman to serve as Senior Circuit Judge Chief in the district. The first locally televised case in Mississippi originated in her courtroom. On November 10, 2003, she, along with Court TV and local ABC, NBC, and CBS affiliates, televised a multi-million-dollar negligence case tried before the court and a Hinds County jury. They had to work twice as hard to pave the way for all the others who came behind them and lead by example. Judge Tommy Green during the Legends Ball was portrayed by Deshae Hopkins, Miss Ethel Gavin Brooks. Her motto was, "We must always do the right thing, even when no one is watching." She was born and raised in Bigby Valley in Noxubee County. After high school, she attended Alcorn State University and received her Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education. After teaching school for 1 year, she moved to Nashville, Tennessee, where she began her federal career. In 1980, she started as a clerk typist GS3 at the Department of the Army Corps of Engineers, and she was promoted to GS4 after a year in that position. The next year, she was promoted to Secretary GS5 in the Natural Resources Management branch. In 1989, she transferred to the Department of Veteran Affairs Regional Office as a personnel assistant. In 1997, she transferred to the G.V. Sonny Montgomery VA Medical Center in Jackson, Mississippi as Chief Processing and Records Section. She also held the position of Retirement Benefits Specialist, Supervisor of Employee and Labor Relations, and she was promoted to Assistant Chief, Human Resource Management Service. She was the first African American female to hold that title. During the Legends Ball, she was portrayed by Miss Tracy Nealand. Cynthia Goodloe Palmer has toured and performed in 36 of the 50 United States, and she even sang in the jail cell where Nelson Mandela was held. She was the first gospel singer to perform at the Jewish Synagogue in Dayton, Ohio. She toured in London, England, and performed at the famous Royal Albert Hall and at the Lincoln Center in New York City alongside Grammy Award winner Kirk Whalum. In 2003, she was featured on the Bobby Jones Gospel Show on the Word Network as one of the 25 new artists, and she has self-produced 5 albums. She has sang in the presence of Miss Coretta Scott King, Rosa Parks, Attorney Johnny Cochran, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and so many more. Now, she serves as the Executive Director of the Veterans of the Mississippi Civil Rights Movement, Incorporated, and as the Secretary of the SNCC Legacy Project Board. She has also served as the Executive Director of the 50th anniversary of the Freedom Summer Reunion and the 50th anniversary of the Freedom Writer Reunion. She is founder of the Canton Gospel Music Association, and she has awarded over 138 music scholarships to students in Madison County since 2004. Her motto is, "In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths." During the Legends Ball, Miss Cynthia Goodloe Palmer was portrayed by Olympia Williams. Miss Angela Stewart was born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. She grew up in the generation that helped to integrate public schools after the Alexander versus Holmes decision. She attended Callaway High School and was often in classes where she was the only African American student in the class. And she had to be willing to speak up and speak out for Black issues as the only Black student in the class. As a student at Alcorn State University, she was president of the Mississippi NAACP Youth and College Division. She's worked with Women for Progress since her mother, Dorothy Stewart, founded it in 1978. She's worked on campaigns from city council to campaigns when Barack Obama ran for president. She also served as the interim project manager for the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. She is the only archivist at the Margaret Walker Center, which is a museum and archive center located on the Jackson State campus in Ayer Hall, the oldest building on the campus. She's also in charge of the oral histories as well. During the Legends Ball, Miss Angela Stewart was portrayed by Cynthia Milton. Mamie Ballard Crockett graduated as valedictorian of her junior class at Piney Woods, and she was awarded a scholarship by the president of the school to go to Jackson State University. She was 16 years old and the youngest person there for years. During her sophomore year in 1964, she and a friend were attempting to cross the 4 lanes of traffic on J.R. Lynch Street that divides the Jackson State campus. They were trying to get to the main campus from their dorm room in Alexander Hall. They had planned how they would cross over the first 2 lanes once that side was clear and wait in the middle for the other side to clear. It normally worked, but this day their plan failed terribly because Miss Mamie Ballard Crockett was hit by a car. Everyone thought it was a plot to get her since everyone knew that she had integrated one of the federal buildings downtown Jackson. It was the Milner Building. It housed the Federal Crop Insurance Company. When she was hit by the car, the student body came out and the football team picked up the man in his car and sat his car on the sidewalk. They wouldn't let him leave until the police arrived. The ambulance took her to the hospital, and after the big game where Jackson State beat Arkansas State, the basketball team came and gave her the winning game ball that they all had autographed. This is why Jackson State had its first riot. The city added a crosswalk, but the students kept demonstrating and protesting until the street became a part of Jackson State University. After the shooting deaths of Philip Gibbs and James Green, the plaza was repaired and enhanced and memorialized the 2 young men and is now known as the Gibbs Green Memorial Plaza. Miss Mamie Ballard Crockett was portrayed by Gina Stewart during the 3rd annual Mississippi Legends Ball. I want to thank you all so much for joining us for another episode of Woman to Woman with Joanne. I'm so excited that you guys joined us to honor and celebrate our Mississippi legends. Share this with a friend that you think would enjoy listening and learning some more of Mississippi's history, and we will see you next time. Love you much. If you would like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to sponsor an episode, please reach out to us. You can email us at joanne@womantowomanwithjoanne.com.